WSJU Radio, St. John's University. As you all know, sports and hip hop with DJ Mad Max. We have a special guest here in the building, James Jude Courtney. James Jude Courtney, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, despite being in quarantine, working remotely from home, and just everything going on in the world right now. How have you been during this whole pandemic?
Oh man, it's been a challenge. As a friend of mine pointed out, it's a forced sabbatical. I mean, I had two films and tons of conventions to go to. My entire year was wiped out. I'm blessed at least to live in a beautiful home and have a private backyard and a swimming pool and a motorcycle and a little vintage MG to drive around and not catch anything while I'm doing it. So things are okay, but it's a time for introspection, man. And so I'm hopefully using this time to grow and create the inner world that's going to create more success and happiness and joy.
And it set the movie back a year.
Yeah.
Kills, set it back.
Yeah, it's I don't, and it'll be interesting to see how that works. But when Ryan Turek and when they called me from Trancas and Blumhouse, Ryan Freeman, and they asked me, like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, guys, I really support it. I mean, we all really care about the fans, and we care about the fact that, you're packing. I mean, we know we're going to pack the house, and we know this Halloween Kills, we believe, is even a better film than 2018. So we know we're going to have repeat, people going to see it 4, 5, 6 times. And man, we don't want to expose the people we love to potential hazards. So we can wait a year. I think it's going to be worth the wait,
Say if things get worse, because they're saying that there's going to be another wave. Could it get set back again? Or are you guys going to be able to figure something out where the fans can go still see the movie?
I don't know. And there's a lot we don't know, because there's so much we don't know about this entire thing. I mean, there's so many genetics we don't understand about it. And, epidemiologists are saying it'll be gone in 3 years. And, I have an astrologer buddy who told me way before then, he said, it'll be gone in 3 years. So, who knows? I mean, I think we can only plan the best we can plan and do our best. And, so for right now, it looks like we'll be released October 15, 2021. And it looks like we'll be shooting Halloween Ends next fall as well. But I talked to David Gordon Green, the director, just recently, and he's like, they're about to start Righteous Gemstones back up again. So they don't even know how this COVID protocol thing is going to work for them. But he's anxious to get people back to work because, he has a very compassionate, empathetic heart. And he's like, look, man, people have mortgages to pay and they have kids to put through school and they have food to put on the table. Like, we need to get people back to work, but we need to do it safely. So we don't know, but we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, you're safe. You get to wear a mask.
But I still got to breathe, man. It's crazy, though, when you're on a set, you got 120 people buzzing around. I mean, it's not like you can put 6 feet apart between people when you're working on a show like that,
Yeah. I want to start from the beginning. You were born in Portland, Ohio. Is that right?
No, I don't know who put that up on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm. But I know you grew up in South Carolina.
Yeah, well, okay. I was born in a hospital in Garfield Heights, Ohio, and raised in Bedford, Ohio. I have no idea even where Portland freaking exists. We moved when we were kids to South Carolina, so I went to high school and college down here, undergrad here, which was a great move. I mean, it was just a great move for us. And South Carolina is beautiful. I mean, Ohio is a beautiful place too, but the weather here is great, and and like any immigrant family, we came down here and just found our way, man. It was a smaller place to live, and I had the benefit of going to the University of South Carolina, where as I had mentioned to you, I majored in broadcasting journalism. It was a 6th ranked journalism school in the nation at the time. So, and I intended to take that major. So, things worked out perfectly, man. Mm-hmm.
And from there, with that degree, did you plan to get into sports broadcasting or just an ordinary entertainment show? Or if there's any other field that you were interested in getting in?
Well, no, I knew in 4th grade I was going to make movies. But the thing was, I got 6 younger brothers, and there's no way my parents were sending me off to NYU or UCLA or Southern Cal to get a film degree. So what I looked at, and I've always been interested in journalism. So I reasoned that studying journalism would give me insight into how to manipulate the human mind, from a point of view from outside, broadcasting journalism, print journalism. And I knew early on that film was about manipulating minds. So I thought, why not go study with people who know how to work with facts, manipulate facts, support facts, detract from facts, to create the kind of emotional response they want. And right now in this polarized environment, holy crap, are we seeing it in broadcasting journalism? So, for me, it was an opportunity to learn from like Pulitzer Prize winning, Emmy, award winning, like really high caliber, accomplished human beings who could teach me how to work in a way that maybe other filmmakers had never thought about. So I saw the opportunity and I jumped on it, man.
Mhm. And how did you start to learn how to get into acting? I think you attended an academy. Is that right?
Well, I knew in fourth grade. So in fifth grade, I started making my own films with my dad's Super 8 camera, and he taught me how to edit. He filmed all of our football games, all of our basketball games, anything that we did, Christmas parties. I mean, he was filming stuff and editing it, and so that was a natural for me. And since I knew I was going to make films, we moved to South Carolina. When I moved down here, like I was the smallest kid on my 10th grade football team. I was the third from smallest kid in 8th grade, but I knew I was going to grow fast in high school, like my dad did, and he was 6'5", 250. I ended up, being 6'4", 210. I knew I was going to grow, but then I moved down here, and my dad had connected with a football coach at the school I ended up going to. When I got to the school, he was a state champion coach. He was a motivational speaker, an inspirational guy. I was really looking forward to playing for him. And I knew I was going to grow into it. But then he left. The new coach wasn't exactly my kind of guy. And I looked at it, I was like, I was going to have to work into a new culture. I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet. So I picked up a bass guitar and started playing music with my buddies who were all very athletic, and we all followed sports. We were always playing basketball or tackle football in the field or whatever. But it's funny how the universe guides you, because becoming a musician for a time was one more aspect that I was going to add to the work I do as an actor. And then I did some plays in high school. And by the time I got to college, I did a couple of television series for educational television for PBS. And so and then I took some acting classes in college, and then there was a couple of acting coaches that really made an impact on me. My first in California was Ron Ray, who was a lecturer at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and I actually went to London and interviewed with the Royal Academy and with the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, thinking I would go there to study for a year or two, but I ended up being offered a film. So I went back and got to work. And then I studied with Stella Adler, who was Marlon Brando's coach. And man, she was tough as nails, but it was hard to get in, and she worked us to death. But between those two people and several other coaches I had, I think training is important. Training is important.
What was your introduction into the horror genre as a viewer, as a kid?
Oh man, my dad, like I said, I had 6 younger brothers, and my dad used to sit with us on Saturday nights or Friday nights. There was a guy named Gallardi on Friday nights in Cleveland, Ohio, and it was all horror films. And so he would sit with us. I can remember, like, we'd all sit in front of the couch, we'd have popcorn, he'd put his big arms around us because we were all scared as shitless. And we'd watch, the classics, Frankenstein, Dracula, Mummy, the Bride of Frankenstein.
The Universal monsters.
Yep, all the Universal monsters, which was really cool because when I first moved out to LA, I was a tour guide at Universal Studios.
That's right.
So I got to know that entire back lot, and I had to learn the history of Universal, but I freaking knew the horror genre already. So yeah, it was awesome.
And being at the Universal Studios in Hollywood, you also got to work on the Conan Park. Is that right?
Yeah. And that was Ron Ray, my acting coach. And I'd never really thought about being a stuntman because, in my innocence and naivete, I thought I'd move out at 25. By 27, I'd be a massive star. By 30, I'd be telling the studios which films I was going to make. And, it doesn't work that way. So I've been doing martial arts off and on since 7th grade, mostly on. And, I was a good athlete. I could handle weapons. And so he got me an audition for the Conan live show, which was Oh man, that was awesome. I've done probably over 7,000 sword fights. I did 3,000 high falls on that show. It was awesome. It was intense. You had to be in incredible shape, lots of injuries, but it gave us a, and there was a lot of really talented people working in that show. So got to meet people from all over the world. I mean, and I had an understudy. So, I could go off and do General Hospital or Knots Landing or all those other little things I did early in my career. So it was a lot of fun.
Mhm. When did you first see the 1978 John Carpenter's Halloween?
In 1978, man, I was an undergrad, and dude, I can't even remember the girl. I know I had a date. I can't remember even who it was. I can remember the theater. I can remember walking out, because there's a couple of films that really influenced that. I knew I was going to make films in fourth grade, so I was going to every movie I could go to. I took every retrospective in college I could take. So when I walked out of Rocky and I walked out of Halloween 1978, I knew they were game changers. I knew that like these two films impacted me like, whoa, something different is happening here now, man. And flash forward to now, how would I ever know that I would get to be a part of that iconic film that affected me, profoundly when I was in 1978.
Mhm. Now, leading up to now, how did you get the role of Michael Myers, and what was the audition?
Well, that was kind of interesting. I had made a determination about 10 years ago that I'm focused on writing. We're in talks with a major apparel company to finance a coming of age story of a high school athlete that I wrote, and and it's all about inspiration. It was inspired by a buddy of mine who played for John Wooden back in the days at UCLA. Kenny Heights started 4 years with next to Lou Alcindor. I mean, so these conversations Kenny and I had about filmmaking, about inspiration, about sports and what it means, how special sports are. And, so I was like, wow, man, there really haven't been that many inspirational sports films made. And so, I wrote the script and almost got it financed. And then I was like, you know what, I'm moving back to South Carolina. I want to be close to my family, and I will only accept roles in front of the camera when my friends call. And so I did a little bit here, a little bit there, but mostly I was focused on writing and getting my film produced. And I get a call from Ron Hutchinson, who's the coordinator on the two Rob Zombie films.
Mhm.
And he's a guy I've known for 35 years. We've worked on the same films. I never worked for him. We have mutual friends that we both love and respect. And he called me and said, "Hey, Jimmy, we're doing a Halloween." And I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome, Ron. Oh, good for you, man. That'll be a lot of fun." And he's like, "Well, here's the deal, man. I read the script, and I called Malika Akkad and David Gordon Green and said, look, this script is different. You're going to need a guy who's a really good actor and a really good stuntman. And there aren't many of those guys around. And there really aren't, because people generally focus on one thing or the other.
Yeah.
And, it's like baseball and football. Like, how many guys really can cross collateralize that? So, he said, well, David said to me, he's got to be 6'3", 200 pounds, and the guy's got to be in his 60s. We need authenticity. And, do you know anybody? And Ron's like, yeah, I know one guy, Jimmy Courtney. So he calls me. I go down to, hour and a half away to Charleston. I go down to Charleston, and they put me on tape. The casting director, and a little interview, a lot of movement, and I wasn't even out of the parking lot, and I get a call from Blumhouse in California, and they're like, "Are you available?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm available." And so then I didn't even get to the freaking freeway, and they call me again. They say, "Hey, David Green wants to meet you. Are you available to come? To come meet David Green?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And as far as I know they looked at Tom, or they talked to Tom Morga, one of the old shapes, but
Yeah,
he's
he was in part
older.
4.
Yeah. Okay. So he, but he just had knee surgery. He's got a few years on me. He just, he wasn't in the place to do it. And as far as I know, I'm the only guy they really looked at seriously. It doesn't really matter, because, as soon as David and I and, Ryan Turek and all the other guys, as soon as I met them, man, it was a done deal.
Mhm. How would you describe your walk? Because I know I've read that you've studied your own cat's mannerisms as well as Nick Castle's performance in the original 1978 Halloween. How would you describe your walk, your Michael Myers walk?
Well, I think, first of all, it's internally driven. All right. So there was a great old character actor named Ted Knight who, when I first moved out to California, I was waiting on tables, and he was there. He's like in his 60s with a 25-year-old girlfriend, and he said, "Hey, you're an actor, right?" And I said, "Yeah, how can you tell?" He goes, "I have an eye for these things." You know, he's a funny guy. Had a few jokes, and then he goes, "Let me give you a gift. Emulate people, emulate." And I don't mean like he's like walk behind him on the street, emulate the bartender when he's serving drinks, like emulate everybody around you, but don't like watch the way they point their feet or how they move their hands. Reach inside them and grab their soul and bring their soul into you and let that drive the way you move, because you'll find that you'll emulate them more perfectly, that you'll start taking on their characteristics. And so, you know, when David cast me, well, first of all, before I went down to the audition, I watched the original one time, and there was a particular scene where in the 1978 version where Nick Castle's walking camera left to camera right in the backyard. So I'm just reaching into him, reaching into what he created. And at that moment in my head, I go, I got it. I got it. Whatever that is that Nick created, I got it. And then when I got cast, you know, David called me and said, so Jimmy, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we need cat-like movements. And I'm like, well, it's funny you say that, David. My cat Parsifal is sitting on my lap right now. I mean, you know, and he's the most efficient hunter killer I've ever known. I mean, this guy, you know, I mean, raccoons are afraid of him. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, but I have studied him and his movement before. And then again, at that point in the game, it was all internally driven. I mean, from that point in the game, I had to just trust my muscle memory and my body to do whatever was happening internally. And, you know, and I do owe that to Nick Castle, man, because more than just the way Nick moved, Nick so intuitively created the essence of what the shape is. And then, of course, whatever happened inside me was filtered through my body, through my consciousness, through whatever gifts and abilities I have. So, but it all goes back to Nick.
I enjoy your performance as Michael Myers. It really brings back the essence of what Nick Castle did. But something I've heard from a lot of fans is that they remind you of Dick Warlock's shape from Halloween 2.
That's quite a compliment. I think Dick Warlock did a great job, man. I think he did a tremendous job. And so, you know, Rick Rosenthal, who directed that, is also, you know, I've known Rick for years, and, you know, I think the second Halloween was a wonderful Halloween as well. But yeah, that's a great compliment. And by the way, Dick Warlock is just like Nick Castle, as nice a guy as you'll ever meet on the planet, man. I mean, what a wonderful human being. Both those guys are amazing.
Mm-hmm. David Gordon Green was chosen to direct this sequel to the original 1978 John Carpenter's Halloween. Why was he the perfect successor to take on this franchise further?
Passion, man. So, you know, everybody that worked on the 2018 film, which then came back on Halloween Kills, we were all back, the whole cast, the whole crew. You know, David had his, and I won't spoil it too much, except that he as a kid was not allowed to watch Halloween. He was at a friend's house. He got to watch it. He was so scared his dad had to come pick him up. I mean, you know, he has been a huge fan of this. And actually, you know, I didn't think David, I knew David, you know, and Danny McBride, you know, Rough House had a 3-picture deal with Blumhouse, Trancas, you know, which is Malek Akkad's company, and Universal Studios. I know they'd all agreed to a 3-picture deal. I didn't know that David was going to direct until he told me. And I remember thinking, God, this guy's got balls, man, because it was so successful. 2018 was so successful. Usually a director would let somebody else go on and make the sequel to that, and you know, in case it fell. But David's, first of all, his self-confidence is very well deserved. But I was like, dude, it's pretty amazing. And sure enough, man, we show up for Halloween Kills, and he's the best director I've ever worked for, man, and worked with. He's, you know, he elicits and solicits creativity from every single person who's available, who has input, and he respects. He is the easiest guy to work with if you show up and you suit up and show up and you're on time and ready to work. Man, he does not suffer fools gladly. If you're not ready, if you can't do it, he's got no time for you. But you know what I mean? He's a great coach, is what he is, man. And he's a visionary. He's just a visionary. And so it didn't surprise me that he made the film he made, Halloween Kills, after knowing what he did in 2018. So yeah, I mean, I find myself very fortunate to have gotten to work with David on 2 films in a row, man.
And what has it been working with Jamie Lee Curtis and as well as John Carpenter? He's done some work on the film, has some input.
Well, John showed up, and he. Everybody who knows him, my impression of him is he's a salty old dog, and everybody, everybody who knows him knows that the first thing he's going to do to you is bust your chops. You know what I mean? So I didn't get to work with him. He showed up because really it's about him giving the blessing. Like
Yeah.
once he saw what David and Ryan, what Ryan Turk put together with Rough House and Blumhouse and Universal and Trancas, and once that all came together, all they needed was his blessing. Jamie, on the other hand, in 2018, I met her. She's sweet. She's beautiful. Everything about her is amazing, but we didn't talk for a couple of weeks because I wanted to give her the space to, this is a prey predator relationship, and
Yeah.
she's an incredible actor, but she's dealing with alcoholism, she's dealing with PTSD, she's dealing with familial issues. I mean, as an actor, she's dealing with a lot, and so if you don't know somebody, you don't know what their parameters are, how far they carry things, what outside influences are going to affect them. And so I wanted to respect her space, but at a certain point we had to do a big fight scene. And so she like marches over to me in a makeup trailer. It was like, okay, we need to talk about this fight thing. And then, from that point we had a few conversations, very deep spiritual conversations. I mean, she's a very deep woman. And then we had some really profound moments shooting the still photography with Dan Winters. And then at Halloween Kills, we didn't work together. So at the very, very end, we were supposed to do the photo shoot together, and we were looking forward to like connecting, hanging out, just saying hi. But we missed each other. They scheduled us apart, on purpose, possibly. And then so she texted me and said, "Hey man, it looks like we're not going to get to see each other. I'm really disappointed, but you know what? Maybe this is for the better. Maybe we just need to finish Halloween Ends before you and I really sit down." And because the dynamic between us, some very fascinating dynamics that are existing between us. Though what I will say is Jamie is the poster child for an empowered woman. She's one of the finest human beings I think you'll ever meet. I mean, what an incredible human being, and what a talent,
Mm-hmm. And she is the scream queen.
She is. And then so much more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because she and Andy Matichek are so symbiotic, and they're so similar in personality, and they're so similar in talent, and so I think Jamie has taken on sort of this mentoring role with Andy. I mean, Andy is coming back in Kills, and Andy's coming back in Halloween Ends, and and Andy deserves all the accolades she gets for that, but she also deserves to have a career like Jamie, where she gets to do really cool films like Jamie has done throughout her career.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever look back at the old Halloween films and just say, "Man, I wish I was able to work with Donald Pleasance"?
Yeah, it's I mean, it would have been fun just to meet him,
Yeah.
because he, as I understand it, he was quite a character. Yeah, man, I'm kind of a very in the present person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think about the future a lot, and I have a pretty sketchy memory. Like, I like to blame it on the concussions, but or all the pot I smoked in high school. But I don't think it's either one. I think it's just that I'm a very present person. So I kind of just take what comes to me in life, and I feel grateful for it, even when it's not so good, because I learned from it.
Yeah.
I've never even thought about that until you said that moment. But now that you said it, it would have been awesome to work with the guy. It would have been awesome to know the guy. And I mean, look at his filmography. Holy crap, man.
Yeah. He's got a big filmography. Huge.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great thing about those old character actors too. And and that's the thing too. I would love to have grown up in the system that he grew up in, the studio system back in the day, when they really, like if you worked for a studio and you weren't on a film that day, you were in acting class and dance class or fencing class, or, I mean, you were doing something to further your craft, and you got a paycheck every week. I mean, now it's such a hustle for people. And, I'm at the top 1% of the Screen Actors Guild that actually gets to make a good living. I mean, the other 99%, you know, a couple of percent are making an okay living, and then the rest are scrambling, you know. And so back in that day, there was a whole coterie of actors that developed men like Donald Pleasance into the men that they could, and women that they could become.
Mm-hmm. What was the first time that you put on the mask? What was your reaction, and what were you feeling?
It was okay. It was we spent the whole day into the night rehearsing that long tracking shot that's at the beginning of 2018, and it took a day to rehearse it and a day to shoot it. So it was at the end of the day. We were getting close to wrapping up the rehearsal. It was before we had started shooting, and Christopher Nelson shows up with two masks and a beautiful leather Halliburton. And everybody's like excited because he showed up with the mask and nobody had seen it, you know? And so David Gordon Green and Jeff Radley and Danny McBride, Ryan Turek, Chris Nelson, Ron Hutchinson, we all go into a back room because these were all practical locations. We were in somebody's house. We go into a back room, and Chris pulls out one of the masks, and everybody's standing around in a circle, and he puts it on me. And there was a collective like, oh, like everyone had this guttural reaction, no words, just a guttural reaction. And to me, because I'd been rehearsing, I'd been going to the place where the shape lives inside me. So I was in touch with that. When Chris put that mask on, dude, it was like the circuit connected. It was like, you know, like
It was meant to be.
Oh, dude, it was,
yeah.
It was. Now, you know, when I played the role without the mask, I still had that same thing going on. But that mask, well, okay, this is the way it is, man. I've got a mask sitting right over here across the room from me. You know, but I don't put it on. I've never put it on. I will not put it on. I wouldn't put it on for a con. I wouldn't put it on for, you know, for a podcast. I wouldn't put it on for anything, because something happens to me when I put that mask on. And it's not a toy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a firearm, dude. It's not a toy. It's a serious weapon. You know what I mean?
That's insane. I've never talked to someone that has felt that way. It says you're a method actor. As soon as the mask goes on, you're a character.
Boom, I'm in. And the thing is, though, I've done so much. You know, there's a thing called family constellation therapy where I volunteered for 15 years helping victims of trauma, but you do a lot of representing. So you draw a lot of energies into your system, and you have to be able to move them out if they're dark, or if they're light energies, they're loving energies, you keep them. But I've traveled in the jungles and done plant medicine with shaman in South America and Native Americans. And, you know, I've done a lot of inner exploration. You know, I had a college chakra initiation from the Dalai Lama. I've done a lot of work. And so, you know, when I play this character, or when I played other dark characters, I'll breathe it in, literally with a breath, breathe it in. You know, that mask goes on, I breathe it in, it's in, and that's where I am until I take it off. But the other side of that is when that mask comes off and I breathe out that energy, it's out, then I'm me again. Mm-hmm. And David Green had said, he said one time he was working with a guy who went deep like I have gone. And he said the guy couldn't get out of it. He ended up in a psych ward for a couple of months because he had a psychotic break. I mean, that's the kind of energy that's in you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It seems serious from what I'm hearing.
Well, here's the thing, man. You know, I really believe you can't lie to the audience. And way back when, a buddy and I developed what we call the yeah right quotient. Like, you know, you go to a film and say, okay, you know, say you're a hardcore Knicks fan, right?
Yeah.
You know, right? You're a hardcore Knicks fan.
Unfortunately.
This is a movie about the, right? Okay, so this is a movie about the Knicks, and all of a sudden you're watching it, and the director and the writer just made up absolute bullshit about, and you've seen these guys play, and they got some guy who doesn't know how to play ball, and you're going, yeah, right. Yeah, right. By the time you get to the third, yeah, right, you've lost the audience, right?
Yeah.
So I feel it, like if you don't have the capacity, especially playing a character like this, I mean, it's either going to be a joke and camp, or it's going to be very, very real, because whatever's happening under that mask, in that body, in that costume, is very, very lethal. And so I think it's really important to, you know, like Jimmy Cagney, who's one of my great old time idols, he said about acting, it's really about standing on 2 feet and telling the truth. So that, whatever that is, has to be honest and true to what's happening inside, which motivates the physical action. And if the audience gets that it's real and there's that pure potentiality living in front of them, it's going to work.
Mhm.
And I feel like it has.
I think so. And you have to feel special in your own right too, because you're in a category of being unmasked as Michael Myers, Tony Moran in the first Halloween. Then you have Don Shanks in part 5. And I don't count the remakes. I'm not a big remake guy. And now this one, you're unmasked. So there's only 3 actors who play Michael Myers who are unmasked.
Yeah. And actually, you think about it, Tony never played it. That's all he did. That was the only scene he did, is when they pulled the mask off. So he
Yeah.
didn't really play it. And this one, and I'm unmasked again in Halloween Kills. And so yeah, it is special. I mean, I think it was shot in a very beautiful, stylized way. And it will be again. But if you put the aggregate together, if you put the pieces together, like, a lot of people, it's funny how many people have recognized me because of the bump on my head, the whop I took on the left side of the top of my head. So I think there's a lot of things about this that I feel fortunate. First of all, just to play the role and to work with these amazing people, but to get to play it 3 times too, man. And like in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, I'm in every freaking scene. Like, it's not like somebody else is playing it or I'm sharing it. Like, I'm in every scene. So I am playing the Shape in 2018. I am playing the Shape in Halloween Kills. I am the Shape in Halloween Ends, So it's cool, man. It's a real honor.
What makes Michael Myers the scariest character in horror movies, as well as the scariest slasher?
Man, that is something I will think about maybe after I do Halloween Ends, because right now I'm living in the space, and it's a spiritual place I go to every day when I work. So the energy that I walked into the first day of rehearsal with, the first day of, because every day starts with makeup with Christopher Nelson putting the prosthetics on. I wear a prosthetic eye and all this kind of stuff, prosthetic hand. So the spiritual place I'm in 2018 was the same spiritual place I was in when I showed up for Halloween Kills on the very first day. And I want to be in that same spiritual place when Halloween Ends starts and ends. So for me, I don't want to intellectualize anything. I don't want to left brain anything. And maybe when it's all done, you and I can have a conversation and we say, look back and then have a few observations about what it means. But right now, I don't want to go there because I don't want to alter what exists in me.
Mm-hmm. I want to get into the effects for the movie, starting with the Dr. Sartain scene. What was used for Dr. Sartain's head when you step on it?
Another amazing Christopher Nelson creation. Let me tell you, man, that head looked so much like Sartain, and he'd have 2 of them sitting on a shelf, walking in your makeup trailer. And I can't tell you how many times I walked into that trailer and saw that head, just that bodiless head. And it freaked me out because it looked just like him, just freaking like him. I mean, Christopher Nelson, dude, Academy Award winner, Emmy Award winning. I mean, the dude is, again, one of the most talented human beings I've ever met.
Yep.
One of the nicest guys I've ever met, He's from Pittsburgh, and he's a big enough dude and was a good enough athlete. He could have played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he chose to be a makeup artist instead. A special effects artist. And wow, his stuff is just through the roof.
It was a powerful scene, and that's a main thing with Michael Myers, and especially other slashers who don't speak, is that I think the audience, we want them to say something, but at the same time we don't, because that kind of ruins it for us.
There is absolutely a mystique to, I think, to not only horror, but you look at like Clint Eastwood's career, especially his early career. I mean, there are certain, Charles Bronson. I mean, there are certain iconic actors who played roles. Gary Cooper was one of those guys. So there's a certain strength and mystique in silence. I think we go all the way back to Frankenstein, man. That I mean, wow. And I think part of it is, especially for horror fans, there's I think there's a working out of pathos. There's a sort of a subconscious process that helps them work out, helps people who enjoy horror. It helps them work out issues of violence and frustration and fear. I find that horror fans are the kindest, most courteous people I've ever met. You know, I've been to Comic Cons and horror cons. I've been to lots of athletic events in my life. I mean, you know, I love athletic events. I love live events. I love live music. So I've been to lots of live music events. People can be really rude and discourteous. You go to a horror con, you're never going to find somebody cutting in line or having attitude or complaining because of this or that, if the air conditioning is not working, if the lines are too long, or you're never going to find it. And I really think horror fans work out some sort of pathos subconsciously where other people don't. You know, I've heard some people say heavy metal does that for them. But certainly, you know, European soccer doesn't do it.
Yeah, no.
You know, but yeah, I you know, there's definitely a mystique to it. But again, I'll go further into my intellectual perception of that. I'll think about it after Halloween ends.
Yeah. Another effect is, and which I've seen the picture of you showing it off either on social media, whoever was filming it, was the hand effect when your fingers get blown off from the shotgun that Laurie Strode pulls.
Yeah, that was the test shot that Christopher Nelson and I did. We went outside the trailer. We just wanted to see how it was going to work, like how effective is this little. And you know, it was fun, man. It's cool. I mean, it's a great effect. And that's the thing, man. He's like a super smart, you know, 10-year-old kid. He just likes making shit. You know, he just likes making things, and his creativity knows no bounds, man. When I went to there's an art gallery behind the original Michael Myers house in Pasadena, and I was out there shooting a documentary last week, a Shudder documentary with Phil Nobles Jr. for Fangoria. Mm-hmm. And so Nick Castle, myself, and, you know, they interviewed Nick, they interviewed me, they interviewed Nick and I together, then they interviewed Nick and I and Chris, because they already had an interview on Chris. So then we had just a short break, and we went to this museum where there's an installation of the Shape in costume with a mask, like a Chris Nelson mask, and the head that he used, that he formed, you know, the life mask of me, the entire head and face. And we pulled the mask off, man. It's just amazing how gifted this guy is. And you got to remember, like this, he's sculpting and painting, and every day that he put that eye on me, he was airbrushing paint. The makeup on my face was all airbrushed on, every line, every crease, you know, all that stuff. Pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy.
That is crazy. I'm wondering, how is Michael Myers going to be able to function this new one with just 3 fingers?
I don't know, man. There were a bunch of punch press operators back in the day that used to do that too. So, you know, man, I got to tell you, a lot of those things are challenging. It's challenging to work with the mask. I mean, you can't see anything, you know, and then working with, you know, looking through the mask with one eye, because I have one eye covered, you know, every day. I can't see. And so, you know, the first day or two, I have to get used to depth perception. Going downstairs is a little sketchy, but your body and your brain adapts really, really quickly. It's the same thing with the hand. When they started, because I tape those 2 fingers shut, and then I put the closed, and then I put the prosthetic on, and that takes about an hour, that whole process. You know, for all the makeup on it and everything. But within a couple of days, man, you know, you get used to operating with what you got, and you adapt, you know. Mm-hmm. I remember I met a guy once who was blind in one eye, and he was the pitcher on the University of San Diego's baseball team.
Wow.
One eye, dude. So, you know, and I mean, remember, and he told me a story that he used to have his eye patch on to warm up, and he'd throw the balls all over the place. So the first 3 or 4 batters would be just like stepping out of the box and all nervous and everything. And he just freaking just kill him, you know, just throw nasty pitches. So yeah, the human body is really adaptive. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Another example I can give you as far as sports go, because this is a sports show as well. Wesley Walker from the New York Jets, he was blind in his, I think his either right or left eye, one of his eyes, and he played as wide receiver for the New York Jets in the 80s.
I did not know. I know him. I did not know he was blind. Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's wild how people are able to adjust with that.
Yeah, well, I think, I think whatever it is, man, I think as human beings, whenever we see our obstacles as our allies, and I think this is a telling tale for all of us, no matter what we do in our lives. I mean, there are things that are just not going to work for us. And somehow we have to just find a way to make it work or work around it or work with it. And, whether it's NFL level or college level, or whether we're limited, I mean, whatever our limitations are, and we all have them. I think, and this is one of the things I think that sports is for me, has proven to be such an important inspiration for me, because there's not a guy or a girl out there on any field or any court who hasn't had to bust their ass, who hasn't had to work overtime, who hasn't had to sacrifice, who hasn't gotten their ass kicked badly at some point and had to make the decision: do I really want this? Do I not want this? I mean, is it worth it? So when we see people out on a court or a field, I mean, even a losing team, man. I mean, I think it was back in the day, I had a buddy who played on Columbia University's never won a football game team. But you know what? They went out and had fun, and they worked hard, and, and they learned a lot. And George, my buddy, is now, very successful, and he's taking that grit and that determination and made himself into a very successful man because of it.
Mm-hmm. I had Kane Hodder on my show this past Monday night, and he also had to work with one eye when he played Jason in Part 7, The New Blood. They also had to cover up one eye. So you share a similarity with that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And Kane's funny, man. Kane's a funny guy. Yeah. And Kane, look, man, and Kane was badly burned. I mean, early on in his career, too. And he could have easily quit. Nah, not Kane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he kept going, and he even specialized in fire stunts. And I think he broke a record in Part 7 when he did the fire scene with Jason.
Wow, I wasn't aware of that. But I'll tell you, man, I don't. At the end of the day, I don't know one human being who's accomplished anything of great value who hasn't had some deeply traumatic experience in their life. Sooner or later, it's going to happen, man. Sooner or later, a death. I mean, whatever it is. And then the question is that, how do we handle it? I mean, we can fold up and die, or we can stand up and fight. It's only two choices.
Yeah. Adapting.
I remember my dad told me when I was a kid, because we're kids, we'd fight, and we got in fights. And I remember him telling me, tell me a couple of dadisms. I mean, he was a combat veteran, a very kind, compassionate man, but, a stock car racer, and a combat veteran. And one time, I was going out to fight a kid, down the block, and I think it was probably 7th grade or 8th grade or something like that. And he's like, "Look, man, all you got to," because it was a big kid. It was a kid that was bigger than me. And my mom didn't like it so much, but my dad was like, "Look, you got to let the kids fight. You got to let them go." So, and remember him saying, "Look, this is a big kid. You're going to get knocked down. All you got to tell yourself in that moment is get back up one more time." And he said, like, now you may have to get up 10 times or 15 times, but the moment is what's really important. The moment your butt hits the concrete, you tell yourself, get up one more time, just one more time, just one more time. And, you get enough of those one more times, and you start realizing, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't hurt that bad. And I can get up one more time. And it becomes easier and easier to get up one more time. And that's where we see guys who end up in the NFL or the NBA or MLB or Major League Soccer, or at the top of the food chain in law or medicine or anything else, broadcasting, journalism, I mean, anything.
Yeah, that's right. What do you think is the scariest scene in the 2018 Halloween film?
I don't know if I can answer that, because once again, I'd have to intellectualize it. And I've only seen it twice. No, 3 times. I'm sorry, because I saw it at the premiere. I saw it when I went to Kentucky shortly after that. We did a fan screening. And then I watched it again when we did like a internet sort of screening party with Jamie and Nick and everybody. We all watched it together and had popcorn and commented on the various scenes. But basically, I don't like watching myself work. Mm-hmm. The only time I will is when I will do it, and it doesn't affect me, is when, like, I'm a stunt coordinator or second unit directing kind of thing, and I need to look at it from a technical aspect. But so really, you know, I sit back and I have to remove myself from it, and I don't know what kind of audience. Aside from the fact that I watched 2018 in the Chinese theater and was very happy that it was a beautiful film. Um, I think once again I'll have to defer until after Halloween ends. You know what I mean? And then I'll be able to sit down and intellectualize. You know, right now I'm like a shark moving in water, man. I ain't got time to think.
Like Bruce the Shark. Oh man, I think what makes this film genius, the 2018 Halloween, is that you get back to the fans and you get all these little nods. The beginning, you bring back the pumpkin in the intro. Just certain things, the Halloween 3 masks that the trick or treaters are wearing in certain scenes. The closet scene that you remade, in which Tommy Lee Wallace played Michael Myers in that scene in the 1978 Halloween.
Yeah, isn't it? And that's all David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, who's a huge fan of the Halloween franchise, and Jeff Radley. I mean, that was all them. They just wanted to put those little Easter eggs in. So as you know, as you and the great thing is, and that's a beautiful thing about that is, you know, for someone who's not a huge fan and might not recognize it, no big deal. It's, you know, but for the people who do recognize it, like yourself, I mean, it's a little treat. You know, it's like, oh my God, oh, that's awesome, man. You know, like I remember that. That's, you know, and that's just really good filmmaking. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, I think psychologically and emotionally, they did the same thing with 2018 in terms of, you know, the issues they're dealing with, alcoholism, with, you know, family issues, with post-traumatic stress, and they're going to do it again in Halloween Kills. There are other issues, and there are other Easter eggs in there, and you know, and a guy like you you're gonna pick them up,
Yep.
and so they do it for you, man.
Yeah, and and they're relatable. That's the thing. The old ones may not have been as relatable, or the new ones you can relate to some of these issues, and or either know people who are going through these issues.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what an opportunity. I think we're alive at a time where we're finally starting to realize, I mean, you know, the dialogue is still going on and it can be contentious, but I think we're at a time where we're starting to realize, wait a minute, man, we're all one large human family. And there are people who are suffering. And there are those of us who have the benefit of this gift or that gift, and we can help these people who are suffering if we recognize that these are valuable human beings, but they're going through, you know, I mean, I have a very, very dear friend who is suffering with addiction, and I never knew addiction in my family. Like I grew up in a big family. I got 6 brothers, 36 first cousins. I mean, you know, a huge family, but you know, mental illness and addiction is not the affliction in our family. We've had other crosses to bear. I mean, we've had deaths and tragedy, and you know, but so you know, helping my friend, being with my friend, you know, for the past couple of years, walking through this has been heart-wrenching and painful and exhausting. But also it helped me realize how lucky, you know, I have been and my family has been, which has given me even greater compassion. So, you know, I had already met this person prior to making 2018, and, you know, and then seeing the perfection that Jamie had, you know, the perfection with which she embodied that pain and that struggle. I mean, so these are beautiful people suffering from horrible diseases, you know, but once we give them compassion and love and the opportunity for support, and so, you know, David Green has compassion for that. That's why he and Danny and Jeff wrote that script the way they wrote it, because they care. And that's what, you know, Jamie's input in that was, I mean, she's been sober 20 years. You know, she walked down that path and she's come back out of it. And that's part of the reason why I think she's so doggone powerful, man.
Yeah, I think so too. Many fans and many people, which I'm surprised, and well, not really, but they are not a fan of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I'd love to know your take on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Well, you know, each one was different. And like I told you, I don't have a great memory. And that's kind of a benefit to me as a writer and as an actor as well. Because I literally will walk out of a film and 3 weeks later, I'll have to have somebody remind me what happened. You know, I just don't remember until someone reminds me. And it's the same thing with my childhood. Same thing with, you know, I mean, I just forget things. And so I can remember, and here's the thing, and I've adopted this perspective. I adopted it early on, like probably in high school, because I was making my own little films.
Mhm.
I realized how hard it was to make a film. I mean, they look easy, they look good, but you know how hard it was to make a film. And so I started to adopt this attitude that, you know, no matter how good or bad a film is, everybody who works on that film has done the best they can. And it's a minor freaking miracle when someone makes a film. So I always try to look for the good in a film, and then I'll sort of notate in my mind, like, okay, the mistakes they made, which get stored somewhere in my memory banks, and hopefully they'll come back out when I need them. But more importantly is appreciating, you know, what people have done and created. And in a franchise like that, man, you're definitely going to have perspectives that are going to work and not going to work. So, I mean, I think you probably remember um, two of all the other than 78, you know,
Yeah.
I remember this two, the sequel, the best. um but then I know Nancy Stevens, I know Rick Rosenthal, you know, I mean there's sort of another connection I have to that. um that Yeah, so but I don't remember disliking it, I don't remember dissing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I to be honest with you, I can't I can't remember.
I love 1981 though, the Halloween 2. I think that's an underrated sequel, and I put that in the top 5 horror sequels of all time. I think that is a really great film.
I think so too. And knowing Rick Rosenthal and what a thoughtful director he is, I mean, he's done a lot of great work in his lifetime. But you're right. I think it was a great sequel. Um, I understand why David and Danny and Ryan Turk and everybody agreed. Malick agreed to, you know, go from 78 to 2018. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I don't think in any way was that dismissing, um, what Rick did with what anybody did on Halloween 2. It was just I think it was just it was just a natural step to take to sort of treat everything as urban myth between 78 and 18. But I think you're right. I think I think it's a beautiful sequel.
Mhm. What can we expect from the upcoming films? You don't have to get into plot details, of course, but as far as suspense, gore, any details of that nature?
I would say there are those in amongst us who worked on 18 and Kills, that are saying Kills is better than 18. I would say Kills is like 2018 on steroids. It's definitely powerful. It's definitely freaking powerful, man. I mean, it was brutal. It was hard to make. Um, you know, David and, you know, Danny and everybody were on their A game. I mean, the script was freaking amazing, and David does this. He'll adjust a screenplay. I mean, he'll adjust a scene right there. He'll rewrite it on his laptop right while you're rehearsing. So, um, you know, there's some really brilliant cinematic moments. Yeah, it's going to be it's powerful. I think I really, and I'm not saying this just because, you know, I'm in this franchise. I really think it's going to be worth the wait. I mean, I would love to have seen it this month,
Yeah.
come out this month, but it's kick ass, dude. And I'll tell you what, my body took a beating on the last one, but this one, man, I was I need ice baths, man.
How do
Ice
you
baths are a
recover?
good thing.
How
What's
do you
that?
recover?
Well, you know, I get acupuncture, I get, you know, myofascial release physical therapy, I do chiropractic. You know, like on 2018, you know, when I get hit with the squib hit, the power pack, the radio pack and battery pack was on my left glute, and I had rehearsed it to spin around, take the hit, spin around, drop into a squat, pop back up and walk away. Well, um, and it was completely on me. I took that hit hard, and I'm glad I did because it felt right. But when I spun around and I took that high speed squat, I nailed that pack on my sit bone. I had a hematoma on my left butt cheek. My left butt cheek was an inch higher than my right butt cheek for the rest of the show. I had to go in and get laser treatments and acupuncture like 4 or 5 times a week just to keep that, you know, I mean, just to rein that in. I had bruises from getting hit with a chair in the arm, like 50 takes. It took a week for those bruises to come out. So, you know, I learned a long time ago, ice baths work, man. Ice baths, you know, hot and cold for me,
Mhm.
but really taking advantage of the modalities. Acupuncture, for anybody who's not only just an athlete, but anybody who's got any kind of injury or, I mean, migraines and stuff. Oh my God, acupuncture, I swear by. I still get it done twice a week. Whether I'm working and injured or whether I'm just healing and preparing for the next show where I'm going to get beat up again. But people don't realize. I mean, they see these snips of like the bathroom scene, for instance, with Rianne and Bob and I fighting in 2018, and they think, oh, slam, slam, slam. Dude, that's a day of beating each other up, and and there's always bruises, there's always cuts, there's always blood, there's always So by the end of a couple of months of shooting, your body gets beat up, man. I don't care if you're 18, you're still going to feel it. You're just going to recover faster. But, I'm 63 years old. I'm still in great shape. But, and I've also learned how to work with, ice and heat. And again, man, ice baths rock. but I'll tell you what, my ticket, my advice is get in a cold bath and then put the freaking ice in. If you put the ice in first, you're going to hate yourself.
You see these football players, they get into those ice tubs. Greg Olson, I remember there was an old Carolina Panthers commercial. He used to just get right in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know what? I mean, if those guys don't, they're not going to walk the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that morning that I woke up after the afternoon, it was a night shoot. So the next afternoon when I woke up, I literally got out of bed. Oh, boy, I could barely freaking move. And I felt like this is the thought in my mind. I felt like I just played in the Super Bowl. I had just gotten my ass kicked badly, but we won. But we freaking won, man. And so every ounce of that pain was worth it. And I got a bunch of ice and I took an ice bath. That was the first thing I did. I took a hot shower, then I took an ice bath, and then started that whole process. I mean, you're going to play, you're going to pay, man. It's worth it, though.
It is worth it. At least you got the right feeling, as though you felt as though you won, and it was a successful film.
Yeah. We knew it when we were making it. We knew it when we were making 2018, and we knew it when we were doing Kills.
Yeah.
We just knew we had something special. We didn't know how successful it'll be or how much money it would make. Right? How are you going to know that? But we just knew, and we would comment, not like in a grandiose way, but just like, man. Like Christopher Nelson would say to me, he'd said to me several times, like, this film that we're working on right now is the reason why I do what I do. So when you get to be, like you think of, take it back to athletics, you think of, a player who gets to a Super Bowl or gets to the World Series or, gets to the NBA finals. Like yes, they do it to play. They do it because they love the sport. They do it because it's what they worked for. But who's not thinking about the pinnacle, man? Who's not thinking about that ring? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we knew we kind of had a sense that we were onto something special, that we were playing on a championship team, and I would really equate it to that.
Mm-hmm. We're looking forward to the upcoming films. What's your top 5 horror movies of all time?
Yeah, again, man, I forget. I mean, but I have to go back to some of the classics because, Frankenstein it's the one that touched me the deepest and the most.
Boris Karloff played an amazing, legendary performance as Frankenstein's monster.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was so human. It was so freaking human.
Yeah,
and definitely Halloween 1978,
yep.
Without a doubt. Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, and I think Robert Englund still, I mean, in terms of horror actors and actors who have portrayed iconic characters, I think Robert Englund is definitely like, at the freaking top of the heap, man. He's what he created, his movement, I mean, yeah. It's, and I think, after that, I get kind of like lost in which one would be my favorite might be based on what I'm thinking in a particular moment, whether it be an old school film or a new school film, like, or, an old school 70s, 80s, 90s, but yeah, I think I'll stay with those because those are the ones I think that really impacted me. And for me, hands down, hands down are the best. So I'll go with those.
In relation to the 2018 Halloween, is something that this film does is getting back to authentic effects. We live in this era and day and age where we're film critics. So we look at films, we say, I can't watch this. This is terrible because of CGI. And there's actually real effects in this. And I think that's what we love most about the 2018 Halloween is that we're going back to the effects.
Yeah, it's thank you for recognizing that. I
Yeah.
mean, certainly, that was intentional using Christopher Nelson's practical effects. Um, Heath Heath Hood, the special effects guy, brilliant guy, top of his game. And for instance, the fire at the end. There were people who thought it was CGI, that it was me, just surrounded by CGI, but most people got that it was real fire. And there's just something that happens to you once again internally, that, dude, that was hot. Like, when you're sitting in front of a campfire and it's cold outside and your jeans are getting really hot and you need to move, but it's too cold outside, so you really don't want to move until you finally have to move.
Yeah.
It's burning. Well, okay, it's that hot. We did 2 takes on the fire scene. And David didn't want me to move a whole lot. He didn't want head tilt. We just wanted just the basic, just enough to let the audience know that it was really me. So when we did that gag, the fire, I closed. I'm wearing 2 Nomex suits soaked in fire retardant gel. I got gel over my neck, gel and Nomex hood into my head. And as soon as the explosion went off, man, that's how hot it was. My entire body was baking like your jeans would be in front of a fire. And then what you wait for, my eyes are closed, my mouth's closed, and then I had to take really tiny, short breaths. Otherwise, it would have burned the epithelial lining of my nose, mouth, throat, lungs. It would have damaged me. And so I had to take really, really tiny little breaths, just, and then you wait for a bite. And at a certain point, that heat is going to bite through your costume or bite through your mask. And both times, one time it bit me in the leg, one time it bit me in the neck. And as soon as it bites, you've got about 5 to 7 seconds, 3, 5, 7 seconds, just to slowly get out of the flames, or you're going to start burning. Your skin's going to start burning. So, and then there's 7, 8 firefighters waiting at the side with CO2 and, a whole support team.
Yeah.
But, I think when you create a practical effect like that and the intensity of that is real, once again, the audience knows when you're lying and they know when you're not. So I think the audience got that, that fire was freaking real, again, I've only been asked by a couple of people if it was CGI. I think everybody else got the fact that it was real.
Yeah, I think it was real. I didn't think of it as CGI because everyone is very critical today, and I think they can't tell the difference. But I know it's CGI because I appreciate classic and creative horror movies.
Well, thank you, man. And I think people like yourself who pay attention, like when you pay attention. And there's some people who just want to be entertained and they're not going to pay attention. You know what I mean? They don't see the deep value, just like the guy who goes to a Knicks game and it's all about the hot dogs and the beer, or the Yankees. Whatever, man. It's like you go to a game and but then there's the guy who's sitting at a baseball game doing stats, and he's going, he's leaning too hard on his left heel, man. He's no, what's going on here? I can tell, people start paying attention to those things. And that's where to me, the real enjoyment is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to, as a young martial artist and boxer, like my buddies and I would go to fights and we would look at the guys getting in the ring and go, and you could tell by their shoulders who was tense, who was relaxed. You could tell by their face, by the way they moved, who was fluid, who wasn't. And you could almost bet on, be pretty clear on who's going to win a fight just by paying attention to the little indicators of who's really in and who doesn't want to be there, in that moment. So yeah, thanks for that, man, because it's, it was a fun thing. And I almost didn't, I had to sort of go to bat because the regular stunt coordinator couldn't make it because that was on a pickup shot. So a new stunt coordinator came in, and Tom was a great guy and a good coordinator, but he had never worked with me before. and he didn't want to put me in the flames. And I'm like, look, man, this is my show. I mean, it's the last shot of the movie. I'm doing it. That's it. And so I was about to go to, go have the final word with the director and producers when Christopher Nelson went in and said, no, Jim's doing it, man. I mean, because that mask is built to my face. It's me. And so even when Nick wears it, you could never get a close up with Nick because the mask would contort. Nick's face is different than mine. So Christopher Nelson was like, look, that mask that's Jim. So the only person who's going to wear that mask in that fire is Jim. And so I didn't even have to pull the 800-pound gorilla, card. I just, I got to do it. It was fun. I'm glad I got to do it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, man, those kinds of situations are so zen because you're in a really dangerous situation like that, and there's so many things that are critical and there's so much at stake. It just makes you get really calm, Yeah. It's like, who do you want pitching at the bottom of the ninth, when you got to tie a game?
Yeah. Not Edwin Diaz for the Mets.
I mean, yeah, man, it's just like yeah, it's I mean, and it's funny because you quickly find out where someone's strengths are and someone's weaknesses are. And,
yeah.
It's funny.
Well, throughout your career, just it comes as a surprise to me, the fire scene and then just the recovery that you have to go through in working on these films. What was the most difficult stunt throughout your career? And it can be from the Halloween films. I know you've been in other films. You received a lot of recognition from one of your episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Maniac Freeway.
Yeah, the one thing, I mean, I don't know that I could place anything in the order of difficulty but there's one little film I made and I went through a window knowing I was going to get cut. I just knew it. There's no way I was not going to get cut. And I ended up having 3 surgeries on my hand to pull glass out of my left hand. And going into it, I knew, I had known from not my experience, but other people's experience, there's little knockers that they put on the glass because it's safety glass. So like they time it, the special effects guy will time it, hit the button, shatter the glass right when you go through it, but you're still getting cut, man. You're going through it. You're going to get cut on the way through. You're going to get cut on the way down when you hit the concrete. Somewhere you're getting cut. So when I ordered the guy, and so I'm not gonna name the film, but it was a small film and it was fun to make. And I went over to the guy. He had 2 knockers on it. I said, "Nah, dude, I want 4 knockers. I mean, because if I hit that thing, I'm gonna knock my ass out. My head's I'm gonna get a concussion. And he goes, nah, two's gonna do it. Trust me. And I said, no, man, put 4, please. He goes, nah, trust me, 2's gonna do it. And I said, all right, here's the deal. If I get hit in the head, when I wake up, you're the first guy I'm coming for. And he goes, okay, I'll put on 4. So he puts on 4, and it turns out the 2 he had originally put on didn't go. So I would have knocked my head. I probably would have knocked unconscious or whatever. But the thing is, it goes back to that Zen moment where, a normal person is not going to jump through a window knowing they're going to get cut. But I knew I was going to get cut, but it was part of my job, man. That's what I got hired to do. So, it's like, put up or show up, man. And shut up. I mean, so, part of the physical therapy I do is just keeping this hand operating. It's my left hand and it's fine. It's good. I can play guitar or whatever, but I use a laser on it every day, a cold laser on my left hand every day. I'm making sure that I have an operational hand because that one little stunt.
Yeah. That's insane. 3 surgeries for glass.
Yeah.
3 surgeries.
Your glass takes a while to come out of your body, man. And I would learn from doing push-ups or bench presses. Ah, shit, another piece of glass is coming out. And then it would get, super painful. It was kind of cool though, because I got to, for the second and third time I got operated on, the doctor knew me, so he knew I wasn't squeamish. So he'd strap my hand down and shoot it up with lidocaine with epinephrine to stop the bleeding and kill the pain. And then he'd operate on it. I get to watch it. It was almost like watching somebody else's hand being operated on. And then he'd start futzing with the nerves and make my fingers pop and everything. It was pretty cool.
Like a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly.
How does it feel to work alongside Nick Castle? I know he did some minimal shots in the film as Michael Myers. How does it feel to work alongside the original Shape? And what has he said that he loves about your performance as the Shape?
Well, Nick didn't show up until like 3 weeks in. So I had never met Nick. We had no dialogue about playing the role or anything. I just went in and did what I did. When he shows up, um, he is such a funny guy, and he's so creative, and he's like a 10-year-old kid. I mean, literally, he's like a 10-year-old kid, man. So he's just fun to be around. So we ended up in the week that he was there, he was in one scene. And when, as soon as we met, we're like fast friends. Like, dude, I know you. Like, I know you from some past life somewhere, man. I mean, so we hung out a lot. We, had dinner or breakfast, whatever it was, before we go crash. And he and I, about 2 days in, we're like, man, because we didn't know what scene he was going to be in. We knew he was going to do a cameo, which means he was going to do one scene, but we didn't know what it was. And we both were like, man, I hope we get to be in the same scene. Like, it's not just me or it's not just you, but it's both of us. And so when David figured out what he wanted to do, he put Nick in the window, so when Jamie pulls up, he's in the window. And then when she shoots the weapon, fires the weapon, it's me in the mirror. And so we both got to inhabit the same scene. And, they put me in the mirror, even though the mirror was distorted, and you could, you could have used Nick, because what they put me in there, because Heath was about a foot behind me with a firearm shooting the projectile into the mirror. And that's just not a place you want to put Nick. That's not what Nick does. I live for that shit. You know what I mean? So, Heath is the best in the business. He's not going to shoot me in the head. But, some people might get unnerved with a weapon firing behind them, a foot behind them. So we got to inhabit that same scene. And he and I are great friends, man. We call each other on the phone. We talk, we hang out. I mean, I hope Nick's around another 50 years, man. And so then he comes out for Halloween Kills. He did another cameo, and then the fans will get to figure out where we inhabit the same scene again, because we're inhabiting a scene together. And I'm sure he'll be back for Halloween Ends, and we'll do the same thing.
I'll be looking forward to that. I think the fans are going to want to know, what does James Jude Courtney do for Halloween, and what will you be doing tomorrow for Halloween in celebration of the holiday that everyone loves?
Oh man, that's a tough one, because our Halloween's closed down, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and I live in a neighborhood it's a very nice neighborhood with young families and grandparents, and so there would normally be there's lots of decorations in my neighborhood. There would normally be a trick-or-treating, and so I would love more than anything, I wouldn't dress up as the Shape, but I would love actually to, because I'm very low key. Most people don't know where I live in terms of the house, because I own properties, but I don't live in a property I own, specifically because I need that anonymity. I need people not to know where I live. So it would have been so fun for me to hand out candy to these kids and their parents not even knowing, unless someone did recognize me, which would be even more fun, because I like that. I'm the fans who do recognize me are always, super, super courteous and non-demanding. But it would have been so fun for me to know inside my being that I'm playing this iconic character, and these little kids have no idea. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, we're going to have a small get together with a few family and friends, but we're trying to honor this whole COVID thing. So it's going to be low key. I think, we might just watch a couple of horror flicks and, have a few glasses of wine and just, hope and pray that next Halloween we get to whoop it up.
Yeah. And celebrate the release of the Halloween Kills.
And that's going to be great, man, because, and this, I'll get to do it next year, but, but contractually, in fact, David Green and I were talking about that. If we end up shooting next fall, contractually, we are, they ship us off to premieres in South America and Australia, Japan, Europe, Toronto, New York, LA. So it's like intense few weeks of premieres that they set up. We fly in, get a night's sleep, do a premiere, fly out the next morning. Then we're in another continent. And I was really looking forward to that just because I love the premiere aspect of watching myself in the film is not so much fun, but the meeting the fans, meeting the press, you know, that's so much fun to me. So I'll just have to wait till next year to do it. Um, but again, man, I got to tell you, I mean, Halloween Kills is going to be worth the wait. It's everything 2018 was and more, like a lot more.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. My year was ruined in some of the aspect. I'm already looking forward to next October because of just everything that's going on with COVID-19 and no conventions, and the whole year is messed up.
Oh yeah, man. I really hate that you know, that we lost the conventions because, you know, man, going to those conventions and meeting, especially horror fans, like meeting people, it's like every single person I meet is another moment of joy, like genuine appreciation for each other, genuine, you know, sharing a moment of nerding out on something that you both have passion for. And so for me, you know, yeah, I make a little bit of money, but more than that, it's so much more than that. It's about the people, and I just love it, man. I first one I did, because I was offered to do cons after I did Buffy, and I was just working so much, I just didn't have interest. I just, you know, I was, you know, I just didn't have the bandwidth to do that and keep doing the things I was doing because I was so hardcore focused on my career. But now I've sort of laid back a little. I'm not hustling for work. I'm working on producing a film. I've got this film, you know, to shoot next year. I got another one, possibly the one that, you know, so it's funny while we're sitting here talking, a director just called on the phone, you know, another director I know. So, you know, doing the cons to me is like, I mean, it's a lot of energy and I'm tired at the end of it. Everybody is because they're just intense days, but everybody I know who does them, like Nick and myself, will always sit next to each other at a con if we do the same con. And we just have a freaking blast all day long. And then we stay up way too late, drink way too much wine, and do it again the next day. And so, you know, for me, man, that's really this, for my personally, I'm missing that more than anything is doing the cons. Cause I know I'll do Halloween Ends and I'll get to do that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It's the cons I'm missing this year because I'm missing that personal contact and all that love.
Something else that horror fans do is they collect figures, they collect memorabilia from movies. How does it feel when you go online or you see a horror fan bring a NECA figure of yourself for you to sign? What's it like seeing yourself as a NECA figure as Michael Myers?
It's crazy. It's, you know, I haven't really processed it. I mean, I do kind of marvel at it. I certainly wish, I wish I had the bulk of the rights to the to the merchandising because somebody's making a freaking fortune off it.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's really, and it's so strange, especially when I see, you know, pieces that have my face, you know, without the, you know, where you can remove the mask and, you know, where you see the head and the beard and, you know, I mean, you know, I'm always clean shaven, so I don't normally have a beard or all that, you know, have hair or anything like that. But it is kind of interesting that, you know, and I've had, you know, cause I haven't gone out and purchased things, my own memorabilia. I mean, it's just because it's kind of, it's like what I do. So going out and buying things of me I mean, I don't know, it just doesn't fit with who I am. But the fans have actually, the reason why I have all these figurines and different pieces are because fans have sent them to me. And like I've had people hit me up on Instagram and go, "Hey man, do you have this or do you have that?" And I'll be like, no, I don't think so. And then they'll send it to me. And so I've got a nice collection of things about me, which makes me feel a lot easier because I'm just not that, I'm not a malignant narcissist, man. I don't need a bunch of shit of me around me. You know what I mean?
Oh man, you know, there's a lot of those people in the world, especially in sports.
Yeah. Well, and so it's a fine balance. I mean, yeah, if I were Larry Holmes or Muhammad Ali or, you know, I'd hang my belts up in a, you know, in a case if, you know, I mean, and it's true, man. I've known, you know, actors and, you know, had the benefit, like, for instance, because of doing the Conan show back in the day, I mean, it was a very popular show, and lots of very famous people would come backstage. It was constant flow of back. And because of that, I got to meet, Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler and Roberto Duran. And, I mean, a lot of fighters came because they connected, of course, with the warrior aspect. In fact, I have to say, and I've met like Ted Kennedy and John McCain, and I've met tons of sports figures. And I have to say and the Dalai Lama, I've met a lot of people in my life. The only person that I was in awe of when I met him was Muhammad Ali. When I met
Wow.
that man, I mean, there was something about him that's so much larger than life. I mean, I can't hit his hands twice my size, and I'm not a small guy. But somehow I felt like he and I'm the same height, or I'm an inch taller than him. I think I was taller than him. But for some reason, I felt like a 5-year-old kid looking up at a giant of a man. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm sure everybody can explain it. He was such a magnificent human being. But other than that, I tend to look at these people with genuine appreciation for their immense skills, but also realize, dude, you worked hard, and I work hard, and you have a talent, and everybody else in this room has a talent. It might not be your talent, but everybody, so I kind of see everybody as equal in that way, except for Muhammad Ali. Yeah, kind of weird.
Mhm. Before I let you go, I want to get into a little bit of sports and music talk. Who are the sports teams that you root for?
Well, dude, I went to the University of South Carolina, so I'm a diehard Gamecock fan. And though I deeply appreciate the NFL in terms of football. For me, college football is my Saturdays are dedicated, to college football. I will absolutely catch NFL games. Since I grew up in Cleveland, I was always a Browns fan. I was a kid. Jimmy Brown was playing. Frank Ryan was a quarterback. I mean, Paul Warfield. There were these amazing athletes back in the day, and then Cleveland became a quarterback graveyard.
Bernie Kosar.
I'm pretty Kozar. Yeah, man, you go back in the day, but I mean, look at the great quarterbacks over the last 10 years, 12 years that have.
Johnny Manziel.
You're right. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, but now Baker Mayfield looks like he's brought some new life, and so I'm sort of re-interested in the Cleveland Browns again. Basketball wise, I lived in Los Angeles, so at the end of the day, and my friend Kenny Heights, who after UCLA, after he played for John Wooden, he was drafted by the Bucks along with Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Yep.
and he was offered a scholarship to Harvard Law. But like many young athletes in college, he had a wife and 2 kids, so he went to rookie camp at the Bucks rookie camp, and he made the team. But his wife's going Harvard Law, Harvard Law, Harvard Law. So he went Harvard Law, ended up living 3 doors down from Kobe Bryant. But I went to tons and tons of games with him, Lakers games. And, so I was really happy to see the Lakers, success. And there's something about basketball, for instance, like the women I've dated and who didn't understand basketball. I always love doing this. Like, you take them to a game or watch it on television, it doesn't matter. And I would tell them to soften their eyes and start watching the patterns that happen on a basketball court. That's when you start seeing the magic of a basketball game. Because yes, you can be wowed by some amazing ball handling, and you can be wowed by an incredible dunk. But when you see the mastery of the play calling or the intuitive plays that the ball players will work out, that's what excites me about basketball. That's when I get really turned on, and then having seen so many of the great players, that I've been able to see. My high school basketball coach, when I played, when I went to high school in Cleveland, played for the Washington Generals. He played in the ABA, and then he played for the Washington Generals, played against the Harlem Globetrotters, and travel with those guys. Flash forward to now, there's a young man named Isaiah Hodges, who's the son of a good friend of mine. His mother's name is Tiffany Berry. Isaiah, I jumped in and sponsored him. He came in 6th in the N.W.A. Combine this past year. He went to Europe and was drafted by a team in Turkey. He came back here, and it looks like the Globetrotters have called him, and we don't know what's happening with the draft, or which pro team he's going
Yeah.
to. But now we're looking at, he did get a call from an NBA team, someone on an NBA team saying, son, get ready to buy your mama house. And so here's a young man who I know, and he's a brilliant athlete, and it's so beautiful to see this 18-year-old young man, 19-year-old young man who's about to frickin' get into the big leagues, man. And I'm stoked for him.
That's great. I'm sure you're gonna be very happy about that once he gets drafted.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. And and here's the thing, that the general manager of the Globetrotters said, I mean, we'll bring him up here, but he's not going to be here long. If he's here a year, we'll be lucky. I mean, this kid is definitely going to the NBA. So he had, I don't even know how many million hits on some of his dunks. And so anyways, man, I definitely have a passion for sports and what it means to inspire, which is why I wrote this script. And yeah, and of course, Nick Castle's a huge Dodgers fan. So
Yeah.
he's, a huge Dodgers fan. I mean, he's
He's happy right now.
Oh yeah, he is, man. Yeah, he is. I know a few people in Tampa that aren't.
Yeah, no, no, not right now.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I mean, these are axioms for life, though, man. These are teachable moments. I think sports. I can understand if people aren't attracted to sports, but I don't get people who criticize sports because they pay too much money. Man, the life lessons that sports bring us, and the joy that it brings us who enjoy sports, who love watching sports and appreciate the intense amount of work and athleticism and talent that goes into what it brings to bring us that enjoyment as we see them compete. Oh man, there's nothing like it in the world. Mm-hmm. So I get to be a part of movies. It would have been awesome to be a part of that too.
Yeah.
That wasn't my path.
You get to experience all that if you're not a New York fan, because if you're a New York fan, you experience nothing but losses.
But it'll change. It'll change.
I hope so.
It will. I mean, you look at all all the teams that have had their glory days, and then they sink and they drown, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if it's something in the stars. I don't know if it's something in the water. Who knows what it is. But I can remember days as a kid, and growing up when the Yankees and the Knicks, and the Jets, and I mean, those were the, I remember those days because I've lived long enough, when those were the teams everybody were compared to, and it's going to happen again. You guys just have to, and you're young, you got a few years.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, hopefully I want to see them. I see at least one of my teams win before I drop dead. I want to see that.
Your lips to God's ears, man.
Yeah. Hopefully I want to see the Jets, the Knicks, or the Mets take home a championship. That's what I want to see.
Excellent, man. Man, you just have to believe. And I think the important thing is so South Carolina, the college, the women's basketball team crush it. The men's basketball team have been to the Final Four. They're good even when they're having a meeting. But the football team has been good, and they've had problems. But the one thing I'll never do, man, is I'll never leave a game early because we're losing. I just refuse to do that. I think it's disrespectful to the players, and I think energy matters. And I think when you're a fan, you need to commit to the entire thing, because you never know when things can change. And it's really important, I think, for a player to look up and realize, hey man, these guys are still with me,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, not judging anybody else when they pull out from the seventh inning, but for me, I'm there until the end, man. I don't mind walking, it taking a little longer to get to my car, and it's not worth it, man. I want to support my team. I want to support my team.
That's dedication. I mean, as a New York fan, I'll put the bag over my head, turn the TV off early. And if I was I don't even pay to go to these games because they lose. I'd lose because I've just seen so many losses my whole life, my 20 years. I've never seen any of my teams win. It's difficult. It's so difficult.
But you know what? These are first world problems, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be, in some third world country struggling just to find, clean water to drink, and a place to take a dump. I mean, at least we're getting to enjoy this, and there is, man, it's just the rhythms of life. I mean, politics, they're going to go, it's going to go from right to left and then left to right. And we're still going to be here as a country in 20 and 50 and 100 years. Our sports teams are going to win, they're going to lose, and then they're going to win sooner or later. And, things are going to change. I mean, there's a reason why the drafting process gets to draft the best players. The worst teams get the first picks. I mean, there's a reason why that happens. And you can never know when a super talented athlete comes in, or and you get the right coach and you have the right GM, and and all of a sudden the magic happens, man. And those turnarounds can come in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Or 50 years if you're the Jets, and longer. Oh my goodness. I want to get into some music talk too a little bit. What are the genres of music that you listen to? Because I know you mentioned before that you played the bass guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked up a bass, just, it's like, and I just played a little bit in high school. And then I kind of, I've been around music all the time. One of my dear friends, Chris Ryan, was Carlos Santana's keyboardist. He's got his gold records on the wall. One of my very good friends is, Zach Myers. He's the, songwriter guitarist for Shinedown. I mean, they just tied Tom Petty on Billboard's all-time top 10 list. They've got 27 #1 hits. I mean,
Yep.
And even for people who don't know the name of the band Shinedown, once you hear the music, they've heard it, they know it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, Brent Smith, the lead singer, has pipes like very few people do. So for me, I've pretty much been a rock and roll guy, and I grew up in that era of kind of, so I was born in '57, so I grew up in the '60s when rock and the Motown sound were like it.
Yeah.
So, I hear anything Motown, man, and it brings me back. I hear anything in early rock, it brings me back. So I'm still, a little more into singer-songwriter stuff now. I have an appreciation for hip hop. I current hip hop, I'm not as up on. Early stuff, I worked with Tupac Shakur on a music video.
Oh wait, that's my favorite rapper of all time, and he's considered to be the greatest of all time. Also on Impact. What was it like working with Tupac?
Well, he was amazing, man. His level of grace and intelligence, so he put out this image of, thug life and, the whole hip hop lifestyle. But the fact is, he was a graceful, intelligent, soft-spoken human being. I mean, he really, he didn't get to be Tupac by accident. That was not an accident. I mean, he everything he did was, everything he did, his career, the way he laid his career out, was very, very well thought out, and he was a big part of that.
Yeah.
I had a lot of respect for him. I really did.
Yeah. That's legendary. I think that's legendary. Not everyone gets to work with Tupac, but for hip hop, I'm a big '90s and early '80s guy. I think that was the best time for hip hop. The lyrics, and it was very poetic and relatable.
Yeah. And I actually got to work with N.W.A as well. And so, and those guys, so we're looking at this is why hip hop exists, because of these, these iconic figures. I mean, the stuff they brought to the table. And so really old school hip hop is more stuff that I find is motivating and inspiring. I'm not really up on most recent hip hop because, I'm like my nephews have a band and they play rock. And, so most if we have a family party or whatever, the band's set up, everybody's playing, we'll jump up and do a few numbers. We're doing pretty much rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a definite appreciation, for the genre. I love old country. I mean, I love, especially classic country. Modern country, I'm not so up on. It doesn't move me the same way, but the classics, like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and all that stuff, I just really love genuine good music. I mean,
yeah.
And so, honestly, like if I were to sit down with you at your station and you were to turn me on to some new hip hop that I haven't heard, I would have faith that you would turn me on to something that would be like, holy shit, man, why haven't I heard that before?
Well, I don't know about that. A lot of the new hip hop is terrible. We call it mumble rap, some of it. It's not as lyrical as it used to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about Tupac and N.W.A. and, you know, all the early stuff, or a lot of the early stuff. You know, I've had people say to me, like when they knew I worked with Tupac, or like, you know, dude, that man changed my life. Like I was in this place in my life, and then they rattle off a few tunes he did, you know, a few pieces, and go, and this made me think, man, and this brought me out of my darkness, and this brought me into a place where I realized I could do something. And, you know, so when artists are making things that can inspire people or make them look at their dark side and see how ugly it is, or whatever that is, yeah, man, that to me is what music's about, and that's the music I'm attracted to.
Mhm.
So that defies genre. You know what I mean?
Same.
I have very little patience for pop music. You know,
Yeah.
mindless lyrics, I'm done.
Yeah.
In fact, mindless lyrics piss me off. They really do. If I hear new music and it's mindless, you know, and it's the poetry of a fifth grader, I'm like, dude, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And that's how music should be. It should be relatable.
Yeah. And offer something to our lives.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be moved. I mean, there's a reason why the great artists, jazz, blues, whatever. I mean, you know, I swear I was riding with my family in a 9.5 hour ride. A bunch of us flew, but I drove the family van because a relative died up in Ohio, and we're driving back, and pretty much, you know, all the music we played, we all agreed on, but one of my nieces threw some recent hip hop up, and I started feeling myself getting pissed.
Yeah.
I was like, and I said that, like, a fifth grader could write this crap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's terrible.
I mean, I don't want to be the old man in the room, but come on, man.
No, I'm the 21-year-old man. I don't like it either. So.
Well, I'm sure that, you know, if I ever get to meet you in person, man, I'm sure you'll be able to turn me on to some stuff that I haven't heard that would be memorable, and that would then be a part of my lexicon as well.
Yeah, I think I could definitely find something. I think there are some lyrical hip hop artists out there now that I think you would like, because I find them. So I found them.
That's your job, man. So, I mean, I don't want to turn this around, but I mean, why are you doing broadcasting, man? I want to know.
Oh, well, I've always had a passion for wanting to get into entertainment. And when I was younger, I wanted to create horror movies. I sat down and found fan mailing addresses and all these addresses to all these people I've written to: Wes Craven, John Carpenter, Tim Burton, Robert Englund, just a bunch of people. And I received responses from them. Steven Spielberg. Who's another person I've written to that was very interesting? Francis Ford Coppola, that I wrote to him. They all wrote me back. And
Wow.
I just wrote to them asking for advice on how I can follow my dreams and get into filmmaking, any tips that they could provide me. And just some of them wrote me back and wrote me nice letters. And unfortunately, through my lifetime, I started to really love music and sports. And then I decided to get into broadcasting when I got into college, and now I'm broadcasting. But next semester, I'm taking a lot of cinematography classes, movie production classes. So I kind of want to start getting into a little bit of film as well, because I have such a passion for the entertainment industry, and I love horror movies as well as just any just movie genre as well. But broadcasting is definitely something that I love doing right now.
Oh, that's awesome, man. But you know, you know what I think is you'll be guided to make the right choices, and everything we do in our lives is a piece of the puzzle. I mean, I look back at high school, like when the guys I played with, the lead guitarist, who he wanted me to be the lead singer. And at that point, I wasn't secure enough, really. I mean, as I look back at it, I should have. I had the voice, you know what I mean? I should have done it. But at that point, at that crossroads is where I made the film choice. And so, you know, you never know, but music has been an important part of, you know, of my life, and it's definitely a part of my acting and my film and everything I do. So, you know, you don't know where this is going to take you, you know? And if you have those multiple interests in multiple disciplines, and you keep putting it out there and you keep working, and your talents, I mean, especially at this point in your life, man, your life is, you're going to pick up new pieces of information, be inspired by new people. And dude, 5 years from now, it'll be great to see where you are, because you could be making your own horror film. Or you could be, you know, you could be on a syndicated freaking XM radio. I mean, you know, who knows? You don't know. You know?
It's scary and especially that we don't know. We kind of just have to go with the flow, and it's just an interesting journey in which you don't know.
Well, I found this, man, is if I reach really hard for something, I don't get it. Whether it's a woman, whether it's a job, whether it's something career-wise, I mean, whatever. What I've found is if I do the inner work, if I really work hard on the things that I love, if I whether it's me being a decent person or, staying in shape or playing music or working on my acting or writing or, if I just do the work, what's mine comes to me, and someone will walk in the door and go, do you know, like the way I got hired on Halloween? Someone gives me a call. 80% of the work I got was like that. I mean, many of the women I've dated have walked into a party and just sat down next to me, or, you know what I mean? So I think things will come to us. We can, a buddy of mine says, it's called being the flame, not the moth, like just let that flame burn, man. Learn everything you can, be as creative as you can, and then just let everything else gravitate towards you, because it will, man. It will. I can promise you that. It will. And you'll see really clear signs along the way that'll tell you which choices to make. I mean, Billy Joel, as the story goes, was supposed to go to Chicago to fight in the National Golden Gloves Championships, but he also had a music gig. He chose the music gig. Pretty good choice.
Yeah. I saw him at concert at the Barclays Center on New Year's Eve when I was a freshman in high school.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And the guy, I mean, it's what an iconic level of talent, right?
Yeah. He still sounds the same from when he started in the 70s.
And that's rare.
Yeah.
That's rare. Yeah. So, but somehow he knew internally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because certainly to a young athlete, being the Golden Gloves champion in his weight class, would be, what fighter wouldn't want that on his way up, right?
Yeah.
Or to go do play in a gig that wasn't probably paying very much money, but it was a gig, So yeah, man, I think I'm excited for you, dude, because if you're pursuing all these paths and soaking up all that knowledge, it's going to manifest into exactly where you need to be, dude.
I appreciate it. I really do. I've never had anyone on my show ever ask me like why I got into this, and I appreciate it because it seems as though like you care about other people.
Well, man, people cared about me, but I think that's another thing we're heading towards. And I think your generation, man, is a generation is just from an observational point of view, your generation is getting it by and large. Like when they do surveys and ask questions of people in, right around your age range, the things they care about, you guys care that there are kids in this country that are going to bed hungry. You care that there are sick people that don't have health care. You care that, that we need an earth to live on in 50 years. I mean, there are things that you guys care about that are kind of lost on the older generations,
Yeah.
And so, and at the end of the day, when we care about each other and we care about what we do, and, therefore we put love into our work and love into our talent, and we put love into each other and support each other. I mean, isn't it amazing that, in your life, even in your 21 years, when you look at people and you compliment them, what happens to them, as opposed to when you look at people and criticize them. So when we give love, all of us, when we give love, we create the opportunity for that person or that situation to blossom. And at the end of the day, man, when I die, I want to look back at my life and go, man, that's the difference I want to make. And that's why I wrote a screenplay about a high school soccer player, because I want to be remembered. If I want to be remembered for anything at all, I want to be remembered for inspiring and healing somehow on this planet. And, and that's what you'll do. I mean, you're bringing joy and happiness with what you do with your show, man. So yeah. You're already on the track. You're already on the track, man. Just keep running.
I'll keep running, man. I appreciate it. James Jude Courtney, is there anything else you'd love to let my audience know here today?
Just that I love him, man. Thanks so much for the love and support. And, everybody just try to stay positive during this challenging time. We're going to get past it together.
Yeah, we are. We're looking forward to Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. We'd love to have you back on the show next year. Would love that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, hit me up. Yeah, in fact, yeah, let's do it once everybody's, a lot of people have had a chance to see it, so we know what we're talking about, and I'm allowed to talk about it because there's lots to talk about.
Yeah. Let's do it. I'm totally down for it. I'll be in touch with you next year, and love that. I can't wait to have you back on.
Done deal, man. Done deal. Happy Halloween, brother.
Yeah, you too. Happy Halloween. Enjoy your day and take care and stay safe.
Absolutely. You as well, man.
Yep. Take care.